with my upcoming release, I think I can promise you this will be a new chapter in my life as an artist, but also as an individual, as a person, to be able to represent a song that I am extremely proud of, which I have collaborated with some of the most talented artists that you wouldn't have probably even heard about, is an incredible experience. Because for me, fame is not what makes music great. It's the artist that makes music great.
Welcome back to Misunderstood. Today I'm excited for this episode. I think one, because of the life, just because of the life I have seen, the lifestyle, what it looks like behind the scenes. I think it's fun. Definitely not for me, but definitely worth the life. But also because of the person. I think the person is a lover of music, a lover of good experiences, a lover of good things, and a person who makes good things. Jaden Piper, how are you today, my brother?
Hello everyone that is listening. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the invite. I've looked forward to this since you discussed it with me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm looking forward to where we're going to go with this conversation and where we're going to end up in discussion.
Yeah, bro, yeah. I mean, I've been watching your journey, bro, since music production back at St. John's, bro, when you were making music and I first found out that you made music. Music is life for you now. It's what you do. It's everything that you've invested your time into. When did you decide to make that choice? When did music become something that you thought you were going to do and actively be a part of? But also, when did it become something that you were living?
I think music has always been a part of my lifestyle. Since I was born, my grandpa, or as I like to call him, Opa, he was in the music industry in the 60s, 70s and 80s, and he headed EMI, which was a very big record label at the time. And then my mom, she lived in Greece for just over a decade as well. So, and that was during the 90s. That was kind of the start of dance music and it rising and it emerging in the way that it has become today. So for me, there was that incredible background from my mom. And since I was a little kid, she used to just play me her old dance tracks that she used to love to listen to when she went on nights out. And she used to just tell me all these stories about how incredible the community was, the dance community specifically, and how it brings people together. So as an early kid, I got into playing various different instruments. I started playing the piano, well, the keyboard at first, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And then when I got to prep school, for those overseas, it's basically when I was around 8 years old, 9 years old. That was when I switched over to the piano. And from that age, I was doing ABRSM, which is a graded music school, and I was doing classical piano at first. And I absolutely just fell in love with music. And then my mom had her 50th and she wanted to go back to her roots, and she hosted her 50th in Greece and went out there, and that was kind of the first eye-opener for me in terms of the way electronic music and dance music can bring peoples of all culture, backgrounds and religions into one room and just create some beautiful sense of community through energy, as I like to call it. Music, life, everything I see has different energies. So for me, I wanted to find a way of how to replicate that feeling. And at this age, around 15 at the time, I was very uncertain about life, as we all are as teenagers. Being at that age, being rebellious against the system, I never liked rules. I didn't like people telling me what to do, telling me how to do it. I wanted to figure out how to do it for myself. And therefore, I found a lot of friction as well in understanding why rules are rules. And so when I really started to get into music, the possibility of falling in love with something where there is no rules. And for me, I discovered music doesn't have any rules. I mean, yes, obviously you got to have certain systems in place, like having everything in the same key, in the same BPM, and keeping control of that. But in terms of creative freedom, to me, it was limitless. And for me, coming from where I was a very stubborn teenager hating rules, I found peace in that for some reason. And then COVID kicked in when I was around 16. And all of a sudden, all these DJs started releasing their mixes, their DJ tapes, their videos, all on YouTube. And I just got lost in them. And then I watched a video of Black Coffee. I think he headlined, not headlined, he played on the main stage at Tomorrowland. And I think this was 2019 or 2018 when he played at Tomorrowland. And I just watched a South African artist, a DJ, and this is kind of where I was also starting to get into Afro House at the time. Originally, I'd come from a background of producing tech house, progressive house, a lot faster BPMs, a lot more higher energy wise. But for me, when I discovered Afro House, and that was through not just that mix of Black Coffee, but through a bunch of other artists as well, there was an emotional element to Afro House that I just fell in love with. The chord progressions, if you listen to an Afro House track, if you break it down, you listen to that emotional side of the track. You listen to the chord progressions, the melodic plucks, the melodic melodies. You then listen to the pad lines, and then putting a groove around something that also makes you want to cry and dance at the same time. That was then when I really started to take music seriously. So to go back to your question, it wasn't just one day I decided to take it seriously. It was more of a journey of at least from my early days of playing different instruments. I got into saxophone as well for a couple of years. I did percussion. So through understanding different instruments and the idea of being able to incorporate different instruments into one song with no rules, I was in love. So it wasn't like an overnight journey into getting into music. It was more of like a 5-year journey of realizing that that's what I wanted to do, if that makes sense.
I can tell why you love music, bro.
I love it.
Intertwined in that, you spoke about energy, you spoke about inclusion, and I think all encompassing in that is that it's a room of people who've come together on the basis they've fallen in love with the fact that there are no rules, that there is no certainty. They don't know what a DJ is going to play, they don't know what music they're going to be promised. It's beyond a name, it's the fact that you're just promising yourself there'll be a good vibe, and sometimes those vibes are really good and sometimes those vibes are good. But at the end of the day, it is this world of uncertainty. I think something beautiful that you said and true to your journey is music as a sound of inclusion, and
absolutely
the diversity in the world that's welcomed and what you've seen and where it's gone.
I'd go so far as to call it a universal language. I keep being told all the time how math is the only universal language. But the one thing that I've noticed that brings people together more than anything else from all walks of life is music. Because with music, generally then you'll have food involved, and you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
It's like the first pillar. So for me, absolutely, music is everything, because music is a vibration put into something you can hear. So for me, that's why I gravitate towards it so much. Because also, again, there's no rules. But there is rules, but there isn't rules.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So absolutely.
And I guess my question to you is, why particularly music the way that you do music, right? And the reason why I ask this is because I think there's two interesting things. One, there's DJing, curating a live experience, being the source of the energy that you talked about. Why particularly down that path? Because beyond just mixing, beyond just seeing it, what does it feel like to be behind the DJ deck for many people who never get that experience amongst many people? But secondly, too, what does it feel like being behind the DJ deck and having the confidence to then say, I'm going to play my song, and seeing a crowd react in the way in which you would hope? I wouldn't say expect, because I think expectations are weird in music, but I would say to some degree, hope they relate, engage, and consume the music in a way that you would see as both enlightening, but also see as fruitful.
It is always nerve-wracking. Let me start off with going to your point of what does it feel like to play your music to a crowd. I would say last year, April, I had my first headline show in a country that I was not living in at the moment. So for me, I did school in South Africa, born and bred in South Africa. South Africa, I'm a very, very, very proud South African. For me, the idea of taking South African music overseas means the world to me. So when I finished high school, I relocated to London because I went and studied a degree in DJing and music production. I did a BA Honours at Point Blank in London, and then at the same time I did a diploma in business management at the London School of Economics.
Wow.
So for me, when it got to playing in a country that was neither the UK or South Africa, it was very, very daunting. So I'll replay the event out to you. So I ended up flying to Porto in Portugal, and I was booked as a headliner, and I'd never been booked in an international country as a headline DJ. And I think the flight is around 9 o'clock in the evening. So we landed in Porto around 10:30, drove to a restaurant, had dinner, and then literally went straight to the club.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Because, and this is a thing that I think I'm always very curious of. Who is the we, but also how do you get to a point where you have established a community that you are sitting down, having dinner with in a different country? Because I guess for many people, and it's always my assumption, is like, if you were to tell me, hey yo bro, you're going to India and you're playing tomorrow, I'm gonna get to India and look around and go, I have no clue where the hell I am. But it always seems like with DJs, there's a capacity to go, I'm playing in said city, and there's almost like a community that almost like captures them, allows them to be themselves, finds their feet, but also then kind of like takes them through their journey and through their gig, and then it's like, okay, on to the next place. So who is the community and what does that look like? But also, how do people actually find that and establish that?
So that's when you then get to the business side of the art or the artist. So there's two questions I still want to fully answer from your side. Is this question in terms of the business side to it, because honestly what you see on Instagram is maybe 10% of the work that a DJ or a music producer would need to do in today's world. So for me, when it came to that show in Portugal, it was that headline show of mine where I think half an hour before my show, I went to the bathroom and I went inside. I mean, I think there was maybe there were a lot of people. I couldn't tell you how much, but the club was packed. I'd never seen that many people in a room before. That squished up in a room before. So for me, I went to the bathroom. I sat. I literally put the toilet seat down, sat on the toilet for maybe a good 25 minutes, just trying to breathe because I was very, very nervous. Literally left, went straight to the bar, had a tequila shot, and I was like, okay, this, I think I'm ready now. So got behind the decks and then just started playing. And then honestly, for me, it just felt like I didn't see an individual face anymore. I just saw unity in people just enjoying the music. For me, after watching videos of my mom when she went out in the 90s, or if you look at YouTube videos, in the 90s, no one cared about the DJ.
Yeah.
Because I find in today's world, there's almost, everyone goes to a club now, and they're just on the dance floor staring at the DJ the entire time. And for me, a DJ is supposed to create a room full of an experience. And with that experience, I mean, some DJs in the 90s, you didn't even have a DJ booth in the club. You were like in a little room, you had your vinyl records, and you were creating the vibe, but then people on the dance floor weren't looking at the DJs, they were looking at their friends. They were interacting with each other, creating not just a singular energy, but individual energy within their friend groups and within themselves. And that, I got to experience a little bit of that in Porto, in Portugal. Because, yes, obviously in today's world, a lot of the time, if you play a very commercial song, a very well-known song, people immediately bring their phones out and they want to record the artist. And then when you do see those recordings, it looks like everyone's been recording, and then people who don't go out are commenting in the comment sections, or people always have their phones out and things like that. Yes, if you're going to play a track that is very well known, people will generally take their phone out to get a recording of that experience, but a lot of the time people are interacting with themselves. So there is still a sense of unity within going out and people dancing with each other and not hyper-fixating themselves on a DJ, but also at the same time there is a problem with it. So for me, once I got playing during that show, and I then realized, okay, I'm going to play my own music, my own unreleased tracks, and a lot of my friends' good unreleased tracks, and create a journey through music, rather than just focusing on playing the song that everyone wants to hear every 2 minutes. The songs that I were playing were really, really well-produced tracks, very, very good tracks that are still coming out. But then I saw a shift in the dance floor where people weren't taking out their phones anymore. People were actually dancing. People were having a really, really good time. And so that's when I then realized, okay, I understand it now. So for me, it was very daunting getting there, playing those first 2 or 3 songs. But as I eased into the set, eventually I just felt one with the music, and I had the best time ever. And then again, to then now go on to that second question you asked afterwards, was that is the artistic side. Then you get the business side. When you travel to do a show internationally, there are steps that happen before you even get on that plane. The one thing is getting contracts in order, getting a rider. So you'll have a rider for multiple things. So a rider is basically things that you need while you are there. At the end of the day, I'm a DJ and I'm an artist, but like any company, I am a brand as well. And off that brand, there is legalities towards that brand. There is a work ethic needed behind the scenes towards that brand, which are very, very important. So you'll get a rider in terms of what drinks do you want when you even get to the club. Your technical rider in terms of what exact equipment you want to be playing on the night. What you expect in terms of the lighting. Do you want a certain color grade of lighting? In terms of visuals, there's generally a screen behind the DJ booth. Yeah. So you'll then send in your visuals so that the visual and lighting guy is on top of that on the night. And this is just for club shows. It gets even worse towards like festival shows and...
Just out of curiosity,
yeah.
Who, if there are people, are the people behind this? Because I'm imagining this is not you doing everything. Like,
so think of your favorite club, yeah?
Yeah.
Think of your favorite festival.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically like it's a shop. And what happens behind a shop? There is a team. It's not just you walk to a club and you got the bouncers and you got the barman and you got the lighting guy and that's the business. There is a team that will make sure. So, and also with a lot of these clubs, they're then just the clubs, but then there will be event companies that want to then use the space for the night, and then will book the DJs. And then when you book a DJ, there's a technical rider. So in terms of preferences of where you would want to stay, in terms of where you would want to, well, in terms of if you've got allergies for any food, if you want to, for instance, have a certain type of drink at the venue when you get to the venue, in terms of what time you're supposed to get picked up from the airport when you land, so for me, when I was playing in Portugal, it was the event owner who picked me up from the airport.
Wow.
Well, yeah, so it was the event owner who picked me up from the airport. We then went to have dinner. Then the event owner plus his partners, plus the videographer also joined for dinner. Basically, everyone who's kind of part of the production.
Yeah.
So we all went for dinner before. Then we headed to the venue. We got to the venue. We went inside. And then when it came to arriving at the venue, that's when the club staff got involved. That's when, so then basically, if you play at a venue, then the club staff will be like, what would you like to drink? But that's when you're a small artist. Generally, that will already be given way before your gig. So I mean, if you look at a very big artist today, they'll arrive at the venue and everything is already there waiting for them. So I mean, so that's just the DJ side, but the DJ part, in my opinion, in today's world is the easy part.
Yeah.
Anyone can DJ today. There's a difference between just being a DJ and being someone who can read a crowd as well, and then someone who produces their own music.
Yes.
So, for instance, if you just want to be a DJ, it's nearly impossible in today's world, because being just a DJ, you've got to either be able to read a crowd or be very, very skilled in what you do. In terms of the way you mix, before you even mix into the next song, are you thinking about what key the next song is in? Will that BPM match? So it's for, again, back to where I was going with it. I think the DJ part is the easy part. Being able to read a crowd is very different, because then you're able to understand energy.
Yeah.
And then also you're producing your own music. If you look, I would say 95% of DJs that do get booked today have in a way produced their own music in the past, or understand how it's fully done.
I think interestingly, and it's a thing that I've heard quite some in more recent time, and just trying to really prepare for this interview and understand the space. I was listening to Shimza, and I was trying to, and I've tried to understand and research what the eventing industry looks like. He complained about the South African industry, and what he particularly complained about was the fact that we don't necessarily have the correct management structures. And the reason why I say management structures in air quotations is because I don't really know 100% what I'm talking about. But what I did come to understand in the conversation is that in the international markets, there's a difference between your agent, your manager, and how those people play into getting you booked, getting you put to different venues, whatever the case may be. But that then allows you to then have a thriving industry, for then you to have all these events, have all these booking places. What has your experience been both locally in South Africa when you were coming up versus internationally in terms of establishing who you are? But also, what necessarily has been your engagement with whatever these management forces are that exist? Because I don't really know what they are. But yeah.
During my time in South Africa, I was an independent artist. So I don't know fully what management like is in South Africa. Shimza would definitely know a million times more than me on that level. For me, my management is based in the UK. And currently I've got a tour manager and an overall main manager. So they play fairly similar roles, but different roles at the same time. So, for instance, my manager will oversee music content, help me with record deals, in terms of handling sponsors, finding sponsors. That will be the role of my manager. And how it works is, with whatever I receive, like any business, he is a partner of the business, and he will then receive a royalty share from all of that. That's kind of how management works. At the end of the day, you don't really look at it as management. You look at you look at it more of a partner.
Ah, okay.
In terms of handling the brand, and the bigger the brand gets, the more partners you will need. So, for instance, you'll have an upcoming artist like myself with two managers, and then you will have a bigger artist who will have, I wouldn't even know how many. I would say maybe 30, 40 different roles, and that's just for one certain thing. But then there's a whole other management side. When you plan on releasing with a record label, you then have the entire management of that record label as well. Then when you want to play a show at a venue, or you get booked for a gig, you're then dealing with the management of that event as well. So there's management for any business. Finding the right management is always something that takes time. And for me, I love my management. They have done so much for me. They are incredible. And so for me, if I can say to any other artist out there who is aspiring, for me, I'm still an aspiring artist. I wouldn't even call myself an established artist yet. Find the people that believe in your art, believe in your vision, believe in your brand, and believe in where you want to go in life. Because there is nothing worse than surrounding yourself with people who don't fully believe you, or don't want to accept where you want to go as an artist, or believe in your vision. For me, I would say follow where your heart leads you, and hopefully that leads you to the right people.
Yeah. And
because I'll get last thing I'm going to say on that is you become who you surround yourself with.
I'm curious as into what that vision is now, for the person, for the brand. And it's interesting, the brand and the person, Jaden Piper, because you're at a very interesting place in the sense of you have a management team, you've played around the world, you've traveled the world, and that must be a very eye-opening experience. You've seen quite a lot at a very young age. I mean, you're 22. I mean,
yeah.
like you're still very, very young. And as you were saying, like you're beyond, I guess, being a baby of life. You're still a baby in this industry. Like there's people of 40, 50. You have a lot of space to chart a path. I don't necessarily think I asked much of what that path is to look like, but what is the hope for that path?
So for me, this year has been quite eye-opening for me in terms of understanding where this is going to go, in terms of what vision and brand I want to be proud to represent in 5 to 10 years from now. And so there's been a lot of behind the scenes work going on this year. I've slowed down on all my shows, I've slowed down on my production, and basically for the past 5 years, obviously while doing my degree and diploma at the same time, I was focused on that, and on the side also trying to keep up with playing shows, keeping up with social media, keeping up with content, and showing that I am active as an artist. But now I've got my degree, I've got my diploma, now it's about real life. And in terms of understanding as an artist, what will I be proud of in 10 years to look back on? So there is a very big announcement coming in the next few days about where I plan on going as an artist in terms of my next upcoming release, which I will be sharing with you guys. And in terms of the brand identity, which I think is very, very important. For me, after traveling, as you mentioned, I've found myself in rooms that I never thought would be imaginable 6-7 years ago. So after experiencing different cultures, experiencing different crowds, experiencing different events, I've noticed one thing in particular is that people come together when there is music. And every day I mean even today, you turn on the news and what are you hearing about? You're hearing about a new virus that's supposedly outbreaking, and people are trying to be on social media trying to scare everyone and terrify everyone, and or something bad's happened in the world in some place. And for me, the idea where I can get into a room or get to a venue and turn on music that can bring people from all walks of life, all different religions, backgrounds, don't care, we all come together, and for the next few hours, let's just forget about everything going on outside of these walls, and let's just create a sense of energy that can really, really just bring people together. That for me is what I'm most passionate about. And so for me, it's about finding an identity within myself towards content, towards my music, in terms of what I put out there that can bring people together. For me, I don't think music should ever be a place of exclusion. For me, it's about inclusivity. So for me, it's just about figuring out the right way to do it. So that's kind of where my headspace has been at this year, and that's why you can check my socials. I've maybe posted here and there, but that's because there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I'm preparing for. Yeah. And so with my upcoming release, I think I can promise you this will be a new chapter in my life as an artist, but also as an individual, as a person, to be able to represent a song that I am extremely proud of, which I have collaborated with some of the most talented artists that you wouldn't have probably even heard about. Is an incredible experience. Because for me, fame is not what makes music great. It's the artist that makes music great. And so for me, there are artists out there that you haven't even heard of that are producing music that would make you feel like you are in cloud nine. So for me, I think with the world and where we're at with technology, I would say music is not something you need to try and listen to the top 50 on the charts. Go find something that you enjoy, if that makes sense. Because there's so much music getting put out today, which is another conversation on its own.
Yeah. I mean, I think true to what you're saying and true to where you are and true to your evolution is the desire to keep moving forward, but the desire to also make sure that you are spending your time correctly. And I think that's the one thing that I've always found, even when we chilled like literally 18 months ago almost, about like you are someone who is very intentional, and it comes through in your music, it comes through in your approach about life, because it's the way you think about things. And I've always said, like, it's one of the weird things is that for someone who's so young, you're already thinking about what must my life look like? Well, how do I ensure that things are comfortable? How do I ensure I am beyond being able to do the thing, actually being able to bear the fruits of the labor and actually be able to say that there's something of worth and of value here that I'm proud of. And I think that's always been interesting, because I think it's even true to the way in which you've mapped out your journey, the business and the music, right? The balance of the two worlds. What's kept you being able to balance those two, to wear both the creative hat and the business hat, where so many people tend to go, I'm going to bite the apple at one. People are like, I'm going to be a creative and that's what I'm going to do through and through, or I'm going to go be a corporate, work 9 to 5. And somehow you've been able to straddle the line, but you're also very conscious about where that is. What has kept you being able to do that?
There are two forms to that question. The one I would say is who you spend your time with, which is very, very important. And the second one would be how you are able to manage your time. For me, I can't get into a business mindset and a creative mindset at the same time. I can't do it. No, if you can do it, I'm very jealous of you, but I can't do that. I know my limits. So for me, I will set out a strategy then. Right, let's plan a studio camp. Give me my space to allow me to be in my creative element for an extended period of time to produce the music that I feel is of quality to what I would love my brand to represent and of what I would like the vision to entail in the future in terms of where I want to head with my music as well. So for me to have that extended period of time to be in my creative freedom space with no barriers is very important to me. And then once I feel like a project has been completed, then I'm able to shift over to a system where unfortunately there is rules and barriers. And so therefore during that process it's very different. Luckily now I have management that is able to help me with the business side of things. But when I was an independent artist, from the time you finish a project, I remember I would immediately go to figuring out how to create an album cover. So I would then get a subscription then for Canva to create an album cover. But I'm a musician, not a graphic designer, so now I've got to think of how to create that. Then you got to send it through to if you were an independent artist at the time, you'd send it to a label for a singles release, and then they would expect a lot of documentation from you. Then you got to sign some contracts as well. When it comes up to releasing a contract, I don't care what level of contract I am reading, before I sign it, I make sure I do have some form of legal representation. Because for me that is very important. In the music industry it is very well known that you'll have something in the contract that isn't there to protect you, but to protect someone else. For me, a contract needs to be in place where both parties are protected. And that's why a lot of artists have struggled in the past, is because they've signed something without fully doing their due diligence and getting caught up in something they didn't want to be fully a part of for an extended period of time. So for me, you've got to be actively thinking like that. Unfortunately, as a musician today, when it comes up to releasing, you do need to have that headspace where you love everybody, but you also got to think that everybody is, you got to be a little bit anxious that people aren't always there for the best of your interests. So you got to have representation on that side and to make sure you are protected.
I wonder, and I ask you this to say that, what does it look like living it beyond thinking it? Because I think there's always an inability, right, to give life, give space, give capacity to your thinking of it. And now you're saying, I've done the business thing. But core to it is still you, right? Core to it, there is still the human being, the emotions, the excitement of your first deal, just because it is a first deal, the sitting with that first deal, thinking about it, but then also having this community of people around you also going, okay, we need to go checks and balances through it. And as you said, you're a person who anti-rules, so innately, like your human brain is probably like, yeah, this is our thing, this is the moment. Like, how do you practice restraint in those moments. But also, what was it like living through that moment when you were told, yo, this is actually your name on the paper. We're about to do this thing with you, and this is about to be the next step in this journey.
So with, as I mentioned, I couldn't sleep for a week because I was so excited to sign that deal, and I remember getting the contract, and that was a really, really cool experience. I think I've framed it. It's in my studio in Johannesburg. Just because it was the first time in my life as an artist where I thought, okay, I'm making a little bit of an impact in my little universe, and I set a goal, and I've reached that first goal, was to release a track with a record label. And then I remember it was like 11:55 in the evening, and I was counting down the seconds until that song appeared on Apple Music and Spotify at 12, and that for me was an incredible experience. I actually remember I was in my boarding room. I was in boarding school, and I was sitting in my boarding room, and I just had my phone there, just literally staring. I was like, I think I woke up maybe my roommate. I think he was terrified for a second, because I was like, yes, it's out. So that it's those small little milestones that you remember the most. For me, that was definitely a very memorable experience. And then, obviously, from there, finding my path in my sound, finding my journey in terms of who I want to be as an artist, what I want to be recognized for. So for me, it was just about creating the vision of that, and also riding off that excitement. I couldn't wait to release my next song after that, because I was like, it almost felt like a drug. It was such a high. And the thing is during my time in high school, I was heavily criticized for producing music. I remember this one time we went, I had a cricket match at St. Benedict's, and we got to the school, and we were playing the game, and the entire opposition team started mockingly trying to sing the one of my songs that I had released, and trying to make me seem like a joke. And then I just remember also people talking behind my backs at school, and so going from that low to then releasing with my first record label was a really, for me, that was a very high, and I couldn't wait to just try and keep riding off that wave. And so I immediately got into the studio, produced another track, but then I started falling more and more and more in love with Afro House, and Afro Tech. And then later on, I fell even more in love with three-step, which I'm starting to explore at the moment. And then there's this artist who I just can't beat, is Calvin Momo, and discovering private school on the piano, which I was just... So there's so much talent in South Africa. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so for me, again, going back to the low I was feeling in high school, to then releasing that first record label, and then starting to gain momentum as I left high school, and then moving to London and carrying on with that momentum, and then I released my first major EP, which got charted on both the UK and South African dance charts. And that's and as an 18 turning 19-year-old, you're like, holy Moses, this is awesome. Because at the same time, I'm like, okay, you guys all doubted me, but I kept the people with me that did believe in me. My family have backed me since the beginning, and I couldn't thank them enough in terms of how they've helped me grow as an artist, become a better human being. There are people from my past that have inspired me in my music. When it comes to creating music, I love to create music as a reflection of me. So in terms of where, if I'm writing lyrics, if I'm writing melodies, I write that all based on a feeling I once had. So for me, whether it was towards writing music about people in my life that have made a big impact on my life, there are people who are no longer in my life but supported me nonetheless during the time they were a part of my life, and seeing how music can really bring people together, as I mentioned to you earlier in this podcast. For me, it's and for me, I'm still a baby and a tiny artist, so and that's from watching where I've come from. I mean, 16-year-old me could never have dreamed of being flown out to Portugal and playing a show. So for me, it's just about, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to yourself. And that is where I've had the most amount of growth. And also there's been a lot of change in my life in the past 3 years as well. And so my art and my music, therefore, has naturally changed. So I probably answered a lot of questions of yours in that little bit of space, but it's just, I have a lot to say about this because I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, I'm curious. You speak about that low, and I don't know how you comprehend that at 16, 17, 18, growing up, trying to find your passion. But what kept you going? Because I think so many other people would have stopped, so many other people would have quit. And of course, to everyone now, seeing you where you are now, it's obvious, look at where he is, look at how it's done. But you didn't know that back then. And
absolutely not. I think it was because I pulled back from any form of negativity that I was feeling. For me, I surrounded myself completely with people that I thought were very close to me at the time. So there was my parents, there was my ex-girlfriend, there was friends that I had been friends with since as long as I can remember. So I closed my circle up, and that then allowed me to then be more creative. So I mean, I even remember during the week when I was in boarding school, when it came to break time or things like that, I used to just go straight to my room and I just go back to producing music. Or I'd be in class. I remember sitting in Afrikaans so many times and being in the back of the classroom just producing music, and I don't think that helped me with my Afrikaans marks, but I had a vision and a passion that I just could not get away from, and that allowed it to evolve into something that was more than just a passion. But when it comes to producing music, I find, well, from my experience as an artist, I love to write music as well based on past experiences, people in my life, and also very important topics that are going on in the world. So that can take you to a very emotional state of mind, especially when you're in that creative zone. You're literally, what you're feeling it raw, and you're trying to pour that emotion into something that's physical, like a piece of art, like a piece of music. And so for me, I realized I was so hyperfixated on that, on producing music all the time, that it took me into a very big low as well. And therefore, I will admit, I had a very difficult period when I was 17, 18 and 19. More so actually when I was 19, obviously moving to London, leaving everything had quite the impact on me as well, especially artistically. So being able to now look at where I'm at and reflecting on that period, I must say I'm very proud and very happy. I'm happy of who I am as a person today. For me, I try and give back in any way possible, whether it's through music or whether it's being through a good human being. So for me, it's just music has allowed me to go on a journey of self-identity, where I have really, over the past 3 years, allowed myself to fully understand who I am as a human being. And by understanding myself, getting into my creative freedom and my creative space is a lot easier for me now. Because I accept who I am as a person. And I think self-acceptance is something that isn't spoken about enough.
Yeah.
Where sometimes take some time off and learn to love yourself.
Yeah, bro. I think it's in what you say. Take some time off and learn to love yourself. And I think it's been in your message, and I think it's true. It's true to what you love. It's true to what you do. You like making sure people are having a good time.
Yeah.
Feeling a good experience, doing it together, making sure that everyone's here, that there's no one that's excluded. Before we close, I want to talk about your upcoming music, the upcoming project. I know you've given it some light throughout this conversation. What should people expect for it? What do you hope people take away from it? But also, what can you share with us in this little light of people sharing things they shouldn't share on this podcast? But yeah.
So, you are going to see a brand new form of the Jaden Piper brand. Something that I have been developing now for a couple months behind the scenes. I have been working behind the scenes with my management to create an identity that I believe will last long term. And now with where I am at in my life, I feel ready to now show people what I really am here to represent. For in the past, it's been a little bit, I'm releasing this track, this is my music, hi, I'm Jaden Piper, but no one's really gotten to know who I am as an individual and who I am as a person. And I don't think people, and I feel like that's also created a little bit of mysteriousness on social media. And so therefore people can't really connect with who I am as an artist and what I'm trying to put out into the world. And so there is a song that is coming out in the next month and a half to 2 months.
Yeah.
And it is going to be the start of my next journey.
Yeah.
The song's name is Izolo. And for me, I believe it represents truly who I am as an artist. It includes the idea of where I believe in my scene collaboration is unity, because collaborating in this genre is what brings us as artists closer together and putting out even better music. So I have collaborated with an incredible producer on this track and 2 incredible vocalists, and we are currently in the works of making the announcement fairly soonish and getting a chance to be able to show the world of who I am as an artist and what I want to represent.
I think closing question, my final question, and as I said, from watching you, from music production, garage band, Mr. Thorburn, on iMacs that were like fridges, bro.
I remember.
To seeing your endless progression, to seeing you play in South Africa, to then seeing you play around the world, like, bro, you are killing it. Like, congrats to you, bro. Like, I'm super proud of you. I'm proud of everything that you've done. And I'm grateful that I've been able to tag along on the few times that I have. I've been so appreciative of how welcoming you've been. But my closing question to you is, what do you hope people take away from this? What do you hope people take away from this conversation? What's your message to the world?
My message to the world is quite simple. We live on a rock that is circling in something that is endless, where we are literally pieces of grains of sand on something. So for me, it's about, don't take life too seriously. Let's stop fighting with each other. Let's get into a room. Let's all enjoy each other's company, while at the same time enjoying everyone's identity and who they want to be as human beings. I think that's very important. Secondly, I believe that when it comes to life, as I've mentioned earlier in this conversation, is really try and learn to understand and love yourself as a human being. Because learning to love and understand yourself as a human being will then allow you to get further in life than where you are now. Because you will really then be able to understand where you want to go as a human being and what you want to represent in life and what little bit of history you want to leave behind.
Jaden Piper, I want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for giving us of your time in your busy schedule, in your doing you, bro, and building what this empire is. I hope to see this thing growing even further. I hope to see it spread to even more countries. As you said, you've been to a multitude of countries.
If I can put it plain and simple, whether I was playing in a room for one person or playing at a festival for 20,000, as long as my music is connecting with someone, that for me is more than enough. Because for me, it's about connecting with people. And so it doesn't matter how many people are out there, it's just about representing my art to those that are able to accept and love it.
There you go. There you have it. It's about connecting with people. It's about the art. It's about the music. It's about the love. It's about the passion. We're here to spread love, man. It's about the conversations. I've been loving what I've been doing out here in Cape Town. Hopefully there's more coming. There's bigger coming. There's going to be funny people. There's going to be things. We're going to have a kiki and a laugh. But as always, this has been Misunderstood. Deuces.